Alrighty, so it is time for some clip by clip breakdowns of all the different debates and all of the different panel discussions that ended up going on over at Politicon. Now, Politicon was, I was not there, but I was streaming a lot and it was pretty crazy. There was a lot of stuff going on that I was streaming. And what we're going to be looking at in question here is one that I was unable to stream because I could not find anyone actually streaming it. So, this one is the How the Frick Frack Do We Get Along panel. Now, this panel consisted of Kyle Kulinski, Bakari Sellers, Roaming Millennial, the moderator, a Daily Wire third stringer, and Charlie Kirk. Now, something interesting about this panel, but before I get into that, actually, I'll say this. The whole point of the panel was essentially supposed to be how do, we sort of alleviate at least all of the polarization that has occurred, because the polarization really has come to a peak, and it's not like it in the any recent times it's been not polarized. I mean, it was pretty damn polarized when the Republicans came together in Congress and decided we're just going to obstruct every single thing that Obama does. So it's been pretty damn polarized for a while, but it has definitely hit its peak. I mean, you really can't talk politics anymore in public and things like that, and it is something that is an issue that you got to be careful about, right? You can't really go out there wearing a shirt of, whoever you support. You don't necessarily want to do that. But anyways, something interesting that I wanted to mention about this debate is that Kyle Kulinski and Charlie Kirk, the living meme. Actually, before I even say that, I want to give a big props to Charlie Kirk, because unlike all of the other conservatives, he actually didn't back out of all the debates like Candace Owens and Tommy Lahren and Ben Shapiro did. He didn't do that. He actually did the debate. So big ups to him, man. He debated two people and did multiple panels. He put in work, man. I'm not going to downplay that. So big ups to him. But anyways, Kyle and Charlie Kirk actually came with a lot of agreements during this. Some of those included agreement on the opposition to Saudi Arabia. Additionally, disagreement or agreement that they are both against the death penalty. And this is going to be something really interesting that we're going to get into here. Now, they were basically having this discussion. And basically, this dude who's this third stringer at the Daily Wire, that's Ben Shapiro's outlet, he's a really, really big idiot and a really, really big moron. This is the same guy who said that basically atheism is a religion and that it's a bigger leap of faith to be an atheist than it is to be a theist. So these are the kinds of people that we're talking about here, just so you guys know. This is a Daily Wire third stringer lackey, and he's just going to completely be a complete douchebag. And this is... I haven't seen much from this dude except for him, his dumbassery, obviously, from the theism shit. But it came across like this guy's a complete douche. But they're about to get into a disagreement here because the dude is going to come off as a massive douche. And Kyle checks him, and he sort of falls into the trap. And I have to say that it's pretty embarrassing that he did that. And he's just such a massive hypocrite. I can't even handle how much of a damn hypocrite this guy is. It's insane how much of a hypocrite this dude is. But anyways, I'm going to roll this clip of them disagreeing with each other, and then I'm going to come back and talk about this.
And Michael, you have an online show as well. Say more about the incentives that you've seen from your experience.
Well, what I find is that people reward authenticity. Audiences reward authenticity. You cannot pretend to be something you're not. Audiences are not going to turn up. And that's why I hate to break up our kumbaya feelings here. I love the polarization. I love it. I love the partisanship. I spent a long time researching a book that I wrote called Reasons to Vote for Democrats.
It's quite thorough, by the way.
Very thorough book. I love it. I want a choice, not an echo. I don't want mealy-mouthed kumbaya. I don't want any of that. I want to know when I'm voting who I'm voting for. In the 1930s and 40s, one of the major complaints of political scientists was that the parties were indistinguishable. You had, on issues anything ranging from life to taxes to death, whatever, people having unclear points of view. Now I know on all of those issues, on the size of government, on the role of government, on socialism, on life, on marriage, on death, on everything. I know where the parties stand. That's the country that I want to live in. It gives me a choice, not an echo. The conservative movement was founded in this. How do we get along? I have a simple answer. We win and you lose. And that might seem a little hard. But there is no, to quote Ronald Reagan, St. Gipper, there is no choice between freedom and slavery. These are not morally equivalent. When one party has elected leaders saying that we should go to Republicans' homes where their children sleep, we should physically mob around them, though there is not a moral equivalence to some harsh rhetoric from little old me on my internet show. Those are not the same thing. I'm glad that there is a difference now, and that is my, maybe that'll be the sequel to my bestseller. All of the reasons to vote for Democrats Part 2. We win, you lose.
So I want to frame issues that has a destructive effect.
How could one side win and not at the expense of the other side? On the question of life, we've been talking about Roe versus Wade a lot because of the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. On the question of life, how does one side win without the other side lose? You're talking about protecting the life of an unborn baby or snuffing out the life of an unborn baby. I don't see a compromise there. I don't see a conciliation on that issue.
I agree that the question of life is probably you specifically chose.
But I mean,
that's hard to bridge.
It's a bullshit talking point because of the fact that what we're doing is we're finding these hyper sensationalized metrics by which to measure how we vote for people. But what we're talking about is how do we improve individuals' lives? And yes, you're going to have individuals like Tim Kaine, for example, who abides by his belief, who is very, very much pro-life, who is a Democrat, but he votes in a manner that's reflective of Virginia.
Did you just say that Tim Kaine is pro-life?
Tim Kaine is pro-life.
No, Tim Kaine supports legal abortion.
First of all, that's what that's literally what I just said. I say, but he votes his constituency in Virginia. But what I'm trying to do is move the conversation beyond this conversation of life, because that's where we get bogged down. But let's actually, my only point to you is that, listen, we can talk about, if we want to just sit here and we want to have a discussion that goes nowhere, we can talk about issues of life where we probably will disagree. We can talk about issues of race where we probably will disagree. But let's actually talk about something substantive that we can probably find common ground on. Like, how do we make sure that people have health care in this country? How do we make sure that kids get properly educated in this country? Because what I will not do is waste time on discussions that people just we continue to have these same discussions and sensationalize it so people get clicks. This is not a click.
That's right.
I'm glad to know that you guys are against the death penalty. I just want to say that. You're so pro-life, so you're against the death penalty.
I'm against the death penalty.
I love the death penalty.
I'm not
So
going
you're not pro-life. So you're not pro-life. So you're not pro-life.
I love the death
So you're not pro-life.
No, I'm pro-life.
No, but
I think the
he just said
okay, I'm going to hold on.
I'm pro-life and I'm also pro-due process, which unfortunately one political party in this country has abandoned.
So then you're against Guantanamo Bay. So then you're against Guantanamo Bay.
But let's just cut through the talking points, because
If you're for due process, you're against Gitmo.
Guys.
If you're for due process, you're against Guantanamo Bay.
No, I'm for due process for American citizens. I'm not for due process for terrorists who fight in violation of the...
All right, guys, I'm going to step in here.
I'm going to Geneva Convention protections themselves.
I'm going to step in here.
This is going to be easy if he keeps walking right into the trap like that.
So yeah, that was pretty damn hilarious to watch, because essentially what you just saw there is, he claimed to be pro-life, and then Kyle essentially asked him, he literally asked him, are you pro-death penalty? Because obviously if you're pro-death penalty, you're anti-life, because you're definitionally down with the government killing people, which is insane. But basically, the death penalty, I don't even know how you can make an argument in favor of it, because there's so many arguments against it. It's crazy. So one of the biggest ones, it really depends on how you rank the biggest one in it, but you're talking about, there's a really big question as to whether or not the government should be in the business of really killing someone, which I don't think they should personally. But anyways, aside from that, there are the fact that the government gets it wrong 4% of the time. So we know factually for sure that the government is killing innocent people with the death penalty. Also, another thing that we know is that the death penalty, when people are put on death row, it costs an insane amount of money, because there's so many appeals going on, because it's a death penalty. So you're going to have a lot of appeals because people are going to appeal more when it's that severe of a punishment. So you're talking about, if you're a fiscal conservative, you should not be in favor of the death penalty. If you're a moral person who doesn't want innocent people dead, you should be not in favor of the death penalty. But also, here's the other thing too. Like, there's so many clips of people who, while they're being sentenced, the judge will threaten the death penalty, and then the person will literally be like, give me the death penalty, because it's an easier way out for people. I mean, if I were a criminal, I'd rather just, have it done than live in a freaking jail, a prison, not a jail, a prison for the rest of my life. That's insanity. So I think it's worse. I think it's a more severe punishment. And I think that a lot of people think that, to actually instead, rot in jail for the rest of your life than, being somebody who, gets the death penalty after committing murder. So that's sort of the issue there. But he checks him on, whether or not he's really pro-life. And being the maddening imbecile buffoon that this douchebag is, such a smarmy douche, by the way. I've never seen someone exhibit this much douchebaggery. Well, actually, that's a lie. I've seen it from Ann Coulter when she brings up the bestseller book shit where she has this supremacy elitist nonsense. I've also seen it exhibited from Stephen Douchebag Crowder. So, a lot of douchebaggery that I've seen. I take that totally back. So, anyways, being a massive douche, he falls into the trap not understanding that you're not being pro-life and he literally says he loves the death penalty. What a douche. What a massive douche. Unbelievably big douchebag. And then afterwards, this is crazy. This dude had the gall. He had the gall to say that there's one party in the country that supports due process. What's his evidence for the Republican Party being the party that believes in due process? A non-criminal trial, a hearing in which people make their own judgments as to whether or not they believe the person. That's his evidence. This broke the hypocritical meter so high that my brain exploded. And it's because I've literally done stories of covering where Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the press secretary, said, if people who are being deported from the country, who have set feet on this soil, are being deported without seeing a judge, well, they're still getting due process. No, you freaking imbecile. Due process, by definition, is seeing a judge and being able to have a judge hear out your case. And Kyle points out the Gitmo thing, but that's not even the first thing. The first thing should be, hold up. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the due process rights apply to citizens. It never says that. And so the Supreme Court has found that it doesn't matter whether or not you're a citizen. It matters whether or not you step foot in the territory of this country, because nowhere in the Constitution, in the Fifth Amendment, does it state specifically that in order to have due process, you have to be a citizen. Nowhere is that stated. And so the Supreme Court has come to the conclusion that it is as long as you have your feet on the soil. So essentially what this dude doesn't understand is every single day we have deportations happening without due process. And on top of that, the Republican Party in the George Bush era essentially modernized, industrialized, and just increased massively the amount of lack of due process. George W. Bush. I mean, talk about lack of due process. I mean, the Gitmo thing is big under George W. Bush with the lack of due process. I mean, there were so many different things, especially when it comes to the Patriot Act. So the fact that this moronic buffoon, this third-string lackey at the Daily Wire, is such a douchebag, such a smarmy douchebag, and he's so fucking stupid, it pisses me off. Like, how can you be that much of a scumbag? Like, not only are you completely wrong and your hypocritical meter is literally over 9,000. I mean, ask Vegeta. You know what he's going to say? It's over 9,000. Like, what the fuck? Dude, you are so hypocritical. It hurts my brain. My brain gets aching pains from hearing how goddamn stupid you are. And when you take that massive stupidity, objective stupidity, and then you top that with being the biggest douchebag on the entire planet, you're a piece of garbage, dude. I fucking hate you.